What's up, guys? Got Michael and Tyler here. We're gonna install the HotLicksExhaust flame kit for you guys today on this 2005 V8 Mustang. We got all the components over here. We got extra wiring to run your switch, the module, spark plug wires. We're gonna try our best to explain exactly how to install this kit, specifically for the V8 version of this car, the 05 to 10 4.6. And we'll try to go over the best we can how to explain it on the V6 version of this car as well, and how to explain it for every other car, the best we can.
Alright guys, so right here we're going to use a drill. This drill is to drill into the exhaust, and then we're going to use a small drill bit, and then a little bit of a medium-sized drill bit, and then we're going to use this conical drill bit just to get to the 1/2 inch. And then once you get to 1/2 inches, your spark plug should be able to fit into the hole of your exhaust, and then you're going to use this wire to connect to the spark plug, and we'll go with the rest later. Alright guys, so we're at the bottom of the exhaust. This is for a dual exit exhaust, so we're going to do it on 2 sides. We're going to measure about 8 inches from the tip of the exhaust. My exhaust is slanted, but it opens right here, so we're going to do 8 inches from this point of the exhaust. 8 inches is about right here. You can mark it with a Sharpie so when you drill, you don't drill off. And if you have like a push point kind of thing to make an indent for the drill to not slide around, that would work better too. Alright guys, let's get into drilling. Alright guys, so we drilled the hole. It's about a 1/2 inch diameter. So what we're going to do now is you're going to grab the locking nut and you're going to grab your spark plug. If your exhaust is big enough, you can put your hand in there. If you have a small exhaust, you can use a 7/8 wrench. And if the wrench isn't really working, you can try this, a needle nose, and whichever one works, as long as you get it tight enough. If you don't put it tight enough, it'll fall off, so make sure you have it tight. You can put a little bit of Loctite, just so the vibrations don't let it loose.
So I'm going to put the locking nut right there, and kind of start threading it on.
Alright guys, so we got that on. What we're going to do next is we're going to do the other side of the exhaust. And once we do that, we'll go into the trunk and set up the flame modules so it can set the spark plugs off.
Alright guys, so off camera we just installed the second one. You can see here. It is recommended that you weld around the spark plug to get a better seal in there. You don't necessarily have to. We're broke boys, so we are not going to do that. As long as it's tight, you should be alright. Next, we got Mr. Michael installing the spark plug modules here. Build up that spark, shoot it out. We're going to be installing it either right here or right here. Best places to put it on the Mustang because it has to be within 4 feet of those spark plugs. So nice and close, your spare tire still fit in there, all that good stuff.
Okay, so we're going to drill in. I'm going to just drill the pilot hole.
Alright, so we're going to drill that. These are self-tapping screws, so all you have to do is just self-tap it with the screw. And then I'm going to put it through the hole of the module. I'm going to have the spark plug wire connector on the bottom, not this on the top, since we're going to run it through the inside to wire it to the switch. I'm just going to get this ready. Put it on where I drill. And then I'm going to get my second self-tapping screw. I'm going to line it up. And drill. And then
That is your first module. And then we're going to do the same thing, just right here with the second module. Alright guys, so right now we're going to connect the negative to the ground. So there's 2 wires on each, or there's 1 wire, 1 negative on each module, the black ones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this wire to this one, and then I'm going to have them meet up at a point, and then I'm going to run a single negative just to right here. On the Mustang, or on any car, you should have grounds around here for your lights and any other stuff. So I'm just going to use a ground that's already on the car. If you don't have a ground, you can get like a file, and you can file down the metal so it's bare metal. You can use a self-tapper and drill into it, or you can even use just a drill bit. And then you can use one of these and you just put it on there. But I already have a ground, so yeah. The HotLicksExhaust comes with this one. This is like if you use your own self-tapper, or they have self-tappers included so you can make your own ground. I already have a ground, so I'm going to use this one. It's just Same thing, except a little bit wider, and it fits perfectly right here. Either or, doesn't matter, so let's get into it. Alright guys, so what we're doing right now is we're connecting these modules. So I have one on this side and one on the other side. They're about the same place. What we're doing is I connected this ground module wire from the module to the black wire that the HotLicksExhaust brings, and I have the ground wire from the other module to a connection point. These two modules connect at one point, and then what happens from there is I got another piece of wire, put the little circle connection thing on it, and I grounded it right there. What I'm doing with the positive right now is I have the positive from here. I'm running some extra wire. I'm gonna run it to this positive, and then what I'm gonna do is get another piece of wire and run it to the inside to the switch. They both are gonna go right here on this middle one. We'll show that later when we're connecting it and stuff. But for right now, we're doing this. Put the spark plug wire. We're gonna run this from the bottom one to the spark plug, and same on the other side. The bottom one to the spark plug. We'll show you that on video. Just quickly running this while we're up here. All right, guys. So right now we have the spark plug wire. This is extra thick. This is to since it's more electricity going through, more conductive. The wire is a little bit thick, so you have to use this for the spark plug wire. If you use one of the thin wires, you're gonna burn through the wire and possibly start a fire. So just to be safe, make sure you use this wire. You can order it online at the HotLicksExhaust store. What we're gonna do on one end is we're gonna use this rectangle tip. We're gonna trim it right here, and we're just gonna slide it in, and then on the bottom we're gonna use this little blue one. We're gonna trim it right there, and if you follow me to the spark plug, on the tip you can just slide this blue one on. And in the kit comes this little tip for the spark plug. That's just gonna screw on just like that. And then you're gonna splice it into the wire, blah, blah, blah. Run the wire through the trunk. And then once you run it through the trunk, you're gonna connect it there. And once we do that, I'll show you the next step, which is running the positive wire to the middle switch. All right, so now that we're in the trunk, so you're gonna get your spark plug wire. You're gonna run it through a grommet. You can drill a hole. If you do drill a hole, I recommend putting rubber grommets so water doesn't splash back up. Once we crimp this connection on there, we're gonna put it on the bottom side. I'm gonna put it under these wires. And what you're gonna do is just slide it in. Make sure it goes into the connection, not on the side of it. Just like that. It should be a little rough to put in. We did it on the same right here. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go underneath. And then we're gonna just do this. So we're gonna do that right here. And then you're gonna grab this, get the flat side on the back, and then put it on there. If it's too short, you can just pull a little bit more to get that extra wire. Put it this way on, screw. I'm gonna put mine up so it doesn't drag on the floor. You can pull whatever excess, push it in, pull it in. This grommet's a little weird, so we're gonna pull it up a little bit. And then you just leave the excess in here. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to get these positives and run it into the interior, and we're gonna connect all this. All right, guys. So right now I'm gonna run these two positive wires up to the front to run it to the switch. So right now I have the spool of wire up there, and I've just pulled a bunch of wire. I'm gonna splice a little bit right here, and then I'm just gonna connect it to here. And then we can go to the inside of the car. Right now, we have the back seats down, or at least one back seat down. What I'm going to do is, this is for any car, you have to run it to this switch up front to where you are on the driver's seat. So you can take the seats off, you can just fold it down. On the Mustangs, I'm gonna just fold it down and run it along the side. And then once it gets here, you have two options. You can either go this way to where your rocker panel is, or you can go here to where your center console is. I have my airlift control wire right here, so I'm gonna just run this here, and once I open this, I'm gonna tuck it all in there. This wire on the Mustang, a really good location is right here. On a lot of cars, I did it on a Camaro, you can put it right here. The e-brake is on the other side, so there's just a big empty space, you can put it here. If you have a spot on here, you can put it anywhere. So for me, I'm gonna do it right here. We're gonna take all of this off. you're gonna have to take this off. You're gonna have to take these off. You're gonna have to take the side panel here, and then you're gonna have to take this bottom part, and that'll give us access to right here. And then there is gonna be a little bit of trimming, but it's just a slight amount, so that'll fit right there. We're gonna run that red wire up to here, and then once we do that, we're gonna get the wire from the ignition cords, and then we're gonna run it here. So we'll go over all that later. But all right, guys. So we have this.
So he ran his wire from right here, underneath, right underneath the seat here. It comes around, down, and it's gonna run underneath this middle section piece here, and then to a button switch right here. To take this panel off, like you said, there's 8mm and an 8mm, but you also need to take this middle piece off, which comes off after you get these two screws off. This rips off, that rips off. Then you could take those two 8mm out, pull this off. We're also probably going to pull his side piece off here to help run the original wires as well.
Pull all this off. This just comes off with a simple pull.
This is where I actually ran my wire as well. It's also a good spot to run your wire.
Here's a wire harness back here. This is where I run my airlines. Perfect place. Won't get crimped or anything. So perfect spot if you're looking for a good spot. There we go. There we go. So this should come off easy, just like that. My pin was a little stuck. Yours might be. Yours might not be. Now these little flaps right here, they come out here. Now you can see it's really easy to take off. We're gonna take this top part off too.
Pull on that. It should give me enough slack. Pull on this side. Now you should be able to come off. I'm gonna take my notches out of the way. Move this up. Have access to all this now. And then give this a little pull. A little pull. Your light control is gonna be here too, so you pull that off. Should be a little connection. Sorry about that. There you go, give me that right here for now. So, we're gonna put this in.
So right here, in this little indent where your keys kind of go, on the back of it, there we're gonna put it right here. We're gonna drill a hole. We're gonna trim this little fin, and then we're gonna little fin, and then we're gonna. Okay then, we're just gonna trim it, and we're gonna do that. So let's do that real quick. Set this switch up, have it ready, make sure it's functional, and then we'll do the rest. Alright, so I have these little Dremel bits, they're like sandpaper bits. So I'm gonna just put that on the drill. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna Dremel this part down, since we're gonna have the switch facing this way. You can have it up, down. It's just easier to get this out the way, either way, because all the wires and stuff. So we're gonna do that real quick. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna get a small drill bit, make a pilot hole, and then we're gonna get the conical drill bit and then make it, I believe, a 1/2 inch. I'll give you the exact size in a second. Alright, so we're gonna get the switch. Now, switch comes in a few pieces. You have the switch itself, you have the locking nut, and then you have the chrome piece, which holds the button in, and that lets you press a button. So you're just gonna unscrew it. Gonna get a small drill bit to start your pilot hole. Kind of get in the middle of yours. I'm gonna do it a little bit to the left because there's a curve right there. It's flat right here. So we're gonna do it about right here. Gonna gonna slide it through. As you can see, now that the fin is out of the way, it can slide anywhere. You're gonna put your locking nut just to lock it in place. And then for now, I'm gonna leave it like this, just because I'm gonna have to twist it every so often. So I'm gonna just leave it just like this, and then I'm gonna run the main wire to it, or the module wire to it. And then we're gonna go under the engine bay, take off the fuse block, explain all that, and that's what the other two are for.
Alright guys, while Michael is cleaning up his wires in there, show you what's coming up next. We got the fuse box here on the good old Ford Mustangs. Now pop it off, just 2 latches. Should pop off pretty easy. This one's a little tougher than mine. Hardly get that with one hand. Alright, and it's stuck again. Now I look like an idiot. Can't even do this with one hand. Okay. So basically when you pop this off, you got this side, this little just pop off. Boom. There's all your fuses. Michael's obviously got some stuff going on here with his. So next, you gotta get underneath it, which is also kind of hard to do with one hand. You also got your underneath it. Just drop that cap. You might need to unclip some of these clips, but essentially you need to get under this fuse panel right here for our cars. The 05 to 06, it might be a different fuse than the 7 to 9 or 7 to 10. So if we can figure that out, we'll make sure we clarify which one it is exactly. In this fuse box, it's going to be the fuse right up here. So you have to get into this green slit right here. And we'll go more into detail on that as we get to that part.
Alright guys, so we're going to take the fuse box off. What you're going to want to do real quick is disconnect your battery. I'm going to just disconnect the negative side real quick. So on Ford's Mustangs, it's an 8mm. So you're just going to do that and then pry it right off. And then move it to the side, make sure it doesn't ground back out. Tyler already showed how to take this off. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna take these 4 bolts off. This holds the fuse box down to the other part of the fuse box. So yeah, we'll take all of them off. You only need to take this one off, but we'll take all of them off just to have more leverage when we're cutting the wires and stuff. Alright, so we loosened this a lot. It's never going to come out. It's just going to keep on spinning. But you're going to want to keep on going. Eventually, you'll have this free. There we go. So, actually, we're just going to take this one off. Just because we don't need to touch any of these. There's a little clip it's plugged into right here. What you're going to want to do, you're going to get these. You're going to pull it down. It'll help if you have like a flat head or something. I'm going to go get one real quick. Alright, so you're going to take this off, obviously, and you're going to want to cut into your ignition coil wiring for any car. You can have a Camaro, Mustang, Genesis. You're going to want it to cut into your ignition coil wire fuse. On some cars, usually a little bit older cars, the ignition coil wiring is under the fuse box. On the 2012 Camaros, it's a little bit newer than this. The ignition coil wire is going to be right here on the coil pack. If you cut like the Camaro fuse, the ignition fuse, you're going to be cutting ignition and injectors. So for every car, make sure you search up a wiring schematic. You can find some free. They should be only at most $10 on some websites, and just make sure you search this up for every car. So this is going to be specifically for 0509 Mustang. So you're going to have your engine number 2 fuse. It's going to be on this side of the fuse box, on the green box, fuse relay box thing. And then if you look at it from this side, on the bottom you're going to see this like bluish wire. And then if you go 2 more down, you're going to see this 2 thick red wires. Every other wire is a little bit thinner than these 2 thick red wires. Yours might not have that little black thing, but it's going to be 2 in 1 fuse. All the other fuse have 1 wire going into it. This one has 2 going into 1. Now you're going to want to cut into both fuses. This is very important. If you only cut into one, you're cutting off either your bank 1 or bank 2 inject ignition coils. So make sure you cut both. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tape off, open this a little bit, and cut around here so I don't cut too short here just in case I make a mistake. You always want to cut towards down here because this wire goes all the way over there. So you can add as much wire as you want down here, but don't cut like right here. If not, you're gonna have to redo this connection right here, which gets a little complicated. I'm gonna find these 2 red ones. There is a few other red ones, so make sure it's these 2, the thick ones. You're gonna go into 1 fuse. You're gonna wanna open this a bit, and then you have these 2. Now this is another important part. This is for almost every car with electronic ignition coils. What you're gonna want to do is you're gonna cut half of it. You're gonna have your battery side. Since the battery gives power to the fuse box, this is the battery side, and then this is the ignition coil side. You're gonna want to split both of them, and then put one side onto one wire and one side onto a different wire. I'll show you exactly what's gonna go down, but just letting you know right now. And then, so you're gonna have 2 separate wires. These 2 wires are gonna meet into one. So this side's gonna meet in one, this side's gonna meet in one, and go to 2 separate wires. So I'll show you that real quick after I cut this. Alright guys, so this is what's gonna happen right now. I'm gonna cut right here. I'm gonna cut about in the middle so I have enough on both sides. Right there seems like a good spot. Cut. Okay, now this is very important. You're gonna have to listen closely. You have 2 ends. Your positive end and your ignition coil end. These 2 are gonna go into 1 wire. Let me see. These 2, I'm gonna use 2 separate wires to make it easy for the video. The red wire is gonna be your positive side, and then let me see this one. Your black wire is gonna be your ignition coil side. You're gonna take both these wires and you're gonna run them into the car. I'll show you that in a second. Alright guys, so the button's obviously gonna be right on like this side where the key is. So what you're gonna wanna do, if you have a fender liner, you're gonna have to jack up the car, remove the fender liner, the tire and stuff. I don't have a fender liner, so I'm just gonna keep the car on the floor and have air suspension, so I raise it as much as I can. What you're gonna wanna do for this part, you can do a few different options. Some people just drill a hole through their firewall. Some people run it through this grommet down here that I'll show you. I'm gonna run it through that grommet. So what you're gonna do, make sure you have enough wire, and then you're gonna fill it to where this air hose is. So I'm gonna go down there real quick and do it. Alright, so I'm gonna do, it's a little tricky to get since I have an air hose. Hopefully it just slides through. But you're gonna want to cut a little hole. On the other side there's a little nub that you can cut with a scissor. Or if you want, you can use a drill and drill from this side. If you do that, it doesn't matter as long as you have the hole. And then you just want to poke this cord through.
Alright, so what Michael's doing is he's having a hard time getting it through the grommet. So he actually taped the wire onto the tip of the screwdriver. He's going to push a screwdriver through and then just pull the wire out on the other side. So the wire will come through right here out of this grommet. So we're trying to get it through right now. Having a little technical difficulties. Something you could do to make your life a little easier. Take off your wheels. Probably could help a little bit. Then maybe you can drill through this grommet right here if you're having troubles getting it through on the other side.
Alright, so we got the wire through. I'll pull a little bit. I'm gonna just, doesn't matter. Make sure if you do this, you're gonna wanna buy, this is 100 feet of 16 gauge. This was pretty cheap at like any auto parts store. 100 is a little overboard, but it helps. So if you look in here, right here, there's a hole. Might be kind of dark, but you're gonna want to run the wire through there, and then I'll continue. You're gonna just reach your hand down here. You can use a plier or any needle nose. You're gonna pull it, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna run this wire along here, along here, along here, behind the battery, and under the strut tower bracing thing.
It can be, there's actually a little hole right here. If you want, you can push it through this hole. It'll come out in the bottom here. Push it back to this hole if you're going for a cleaner look and into the fuse box. If you're like us and you don't really care about under your hood right now, you could just go right over like this wire that's already over here.
Alright guys, so I ran it through here. Little rundown. Let me get this pink wire out the way. You're gonna run it under here. You're gonna go under the wheel well, and then you're gonna go out here, and you're gonna feed it back through, and it's gonna pop out. So now, this is the red one, so I'll use the red as the battery side. I'm gonna crimp this a little bit. So I'm gonna do a little bit extra since I'm gonna do something a little bit different. But here's what the rundown is. So on the battery side, you're gonna get one of these crimpers things. You're gonna slide that in there with the two battery side on here, and the battery side cable is gonna go right here. You're gonna crimp that together, and you're gonna do the same thing on the other side. You're gonna run another cable from inside, go to here, and do the same exact thing. Now so imagine this is one of these. This will be just like this. This will be right there. You'll be running this through here. So now this is done for this side. What you're gonna want to do is you can either use the cable you bought, the cable it brings, or whatever you want to do, and you're gonna do it to this side. Same exact thing. So we're gonna run this throughout everything, and we're just gonna do it with this black cable real quick for the other side. All right, so ran this one from inside just like we did with this red cable. I'm using two cables just so I can distinguish which one is which one. You can use the same color. It doesn't really matter, but it's just a little bit easier. I am guiding this wire from the little grommet where the screwdriver is up to here. There's a wire harness right here. And what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna put both wires on this wire harness, so that way you stay away from the steering rack column, whatever you want to call it, right here. The problem is if you don't route it with whatever harness, or if you just don't route it in a way where it doesn't hit this, it's gonna get tangled up in this part right here, and you'll rip the wires right apart, which is gonna be a big no-no. So just make sure you cleanly route it so it doesn't hit any wires. Alright guys, so we're gonna be here with 3 wires. Now you can color code your wires by buying different wires, but I just used a black, a red, and another red. Now this wire comes down here, so this is my spark plug module wires. You're gonna plug this in the center, right there. Make sure you get it into the little connection because sometimes it likes going in the side. And now you're gonna have 2 other ones. You're gonna have your, I believe it's COM. So it's COM and NC. Now you have to wire this right, if not it won't spark. So the instructions say exactly which one goes on which one. So I'm just gonna put it like this. I believe the positive side goes on COM. If I can plug it in. It's a little bit of a tight fit. There we go. And then we're gonna do the other one. And to make sure this is right, we're gonna check for spark real quick. So I have the battery plugged in, the wires are connected, all these wires are connected. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the key on without the engine and just click this button.
To accessory mode.
To accessory mode, yes. So I have air suspension, so it's gonna make a sound, don't worry about that. Alright, so what you're gonna do, you're gonna press this button. And once you hear that, that means you have spark.
Go ahead. You see it right down there. This one, there you go. You can actually physically see and hear the spark. You're good.
Alright, so this is how you're going to wire it. You're going to wire your positive side of the fuse box to COM. You're going to plug the module to NO. You're going to plug the ignition side to NC. Once you do this, you should have it sparking. Another little thing is if you don't cut into the ignition fuse and you cut into something else. So ours is engine 2, but there's also an ignition fuse. If you cut into, let's say, the ignition fuse, and let's say that controls your injectors. If you do that and hit the button, instead of cutting ignition, you'll be cutting your injectors, and you'll still have the engine stalling out, but instead of shooting the fuel out, you'll just be shooting air out, and you won't be getting any flames. You'll still might be getting spark. You still might be stalling the engine, but you just won't be getting any flames because you're cutting, let's just say, injectors or anything else on the engine. So make sure you're cutting your ignition. Now, I'm gonna just have the car like this. I'm gonna take it outside and let it warm up. So to use the flame kit, you have to make sure you're at idle temperature or running temperature. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna press down the gas. There's a few different things you're gonna do. So you can kind of like flood the engine a little bit by pressing the gas a few times and then revving it up. You're gonna want to rev it to about red line. If you have a tuner, you can change it to a little bit under so it's hitting the tuner's red line. And what you're gonna do is while your foot is down on the gas, you're gonna press and hold the button, and the ignition should cut off, the spark should spark, and you should be getting a flame. If you're not getting a flame, you can try pumping the gas, so it's kind of like spitting gas. And if that's still not working, either something isn't wired right or you've cut into the wrong fuse and you're cutting some other engine accessory.
Another thing to add, when you're holding the button down, never let it get past your idle RPM, 1,000 RPMs, so around there. Because as you're holding that button, you'll watch as your foot's on the floor, the RPMs will just start slowly going down. Do not let it get past your idle RPM. Let go of that button and then keep pressing the gas until the engine sounds like it's back to normal, because you're essentially flooding your engine. So you need to make sure you don't let it die while you're flooding your engine, or you're going to give yourself a load of problems.
Yeah.
This kit is completely safe to do on your car as long as you do it properly.
Yeah, if you follow all the instructions, you shouldn't have any problems. As long as you don't abuse it with the kit, you should be fine. So as you said, just don't let it go beyond the idle RPM.